Steady up my energy, achieving stealth. Van Allen belt level, deadly, steady, ready, aim. Steps more like Big Daddy to Eddie Kane. Peace and love, everybody. Welcome to the Way of Kingz. Listen, this is a podcast about trying to make the world a better place by putting better people in it and instilling people with information that they need. I go by the name of Headkrack, and alongside me, I got an esteemed group of colleagues, I should say, starting with
the Kingmaker. Hi.
Antonio Taylor.
And Kevin Williams. Hi.
And you can make some noise, you can clap, you know what I'm saying? And this is us actually clapping for y'all, not necessarily just the people watching us online and streaming and all that stuff, but also people in the building. I know there's so many other things you could have been doing tonight, but y'all hanging out with us. We love that. Shout out to the DJ.
DJ Supreme.
Yo, he's playing versions of songs that only he has. And I love that. That's what's so dope about DJing, when you come out with your stuff and you're like, nah, y'all got this version. My homie on that. You know what I mean? Like, that's dope. Everything was banging, man. Shout out to you, DJ Supreme. And we got so much to dive into this week. Kingmaker, talk to him.
So first, I want to thank the R.E.A.L Milk and Honey, who is sponsoring us tonight. Thank you, Chef Jason. Thank you, Unique. Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, all the people who are a part of making this available to us. They opened back up for us specifically to do this podcast because they believe in what we're doing. So we appreciate you so much. So today we have a special guest.
Yes.
Antonio Taylor, who is a business owner. You own Platinum Luxury Cars, is that correct?
Platinum Luxury Fleet.
Which is a limo service.
Yes.
Awesome. And he is one half of the dynamic duo that has created Love Rekindled, which is an amazing community to help couples repair, reconnect, and rekindle.
And thrive.
That's the important part.
Exactly. In love. Yeah, solutions. I love that. Also, they have just recently got into the dating space, which I am so excited to collaborate with them on intentional dating.
Yes.
They've done some events that have had amazing turnouts. I posted some of it on our social media, so you all be to check that out. Speaking of social media, the Way of Kingz podcast has its own Instagram page. So everybody get out your phone. Let's go to IG.
I'm going to lead by example and do it too.
Right, lead by example. Kevin.
I'm already there.
You're already there. And go to the Way of Kingz podcast and follow. And then click the link in the bio for the Way of Kingz podcast YouTube channel and subscribe.
Easy enough.
Like, subscribe. Make sure that we get to be in your living rooms even when you can't physically get to us.
We'll get to you.
Yes, we'll get to you. So while you all are doing that, if anyone who was not able to be here, hey, Kennedy, anybody who was not able to be here last week, check out How to Break Free from Silencer Syndrome, which was our episode for last week, available on our YouTube channel, okay? Now, our first segment of our podcast is Headkrack segment, which is called Move Better.
Okay, me put my swimming hat, ready to dive into it. So Move Better is about ways to maneuver better in life. A lot of times we get stuck, we get stagnant. And, last week I was talking about ways to move better within the, workflow space, the AI space, your time management and all that thing. I want to break it down to the lowest common denominator this week and teach you how to actually move better. I see a lot of guys in here. I see a lot of in-shape women as well. A lot of times we go to the gym and we barely have enough time to actually do the workout that we are going there to do, right? So you go in there, you maybe you start with a little cardio on the treadmill, maybe you lifting a little bit of weights and whatnot, and then my 45 minutes to an hour is out and you run right out of there. Next thing you know, the next day when you wake up, you feel 3 years older than you did when you went there to do the workout initially. And this is because you're not stretching. Stretching will keep you from looking like C-3PO as you walk around out here in these streets with your joints all tight and tensed up. It really is life. Like, yo, if you go work out and you don't stretch, you're going to pay for it later. There's some people here who look like they're still in their 20s. Whatever, old man's what you're thinking in your head. However, there's going to come a point in your life where the warranty on your joints is going to go out and you're going to wish you had stretched every time you went to the gym. Doesn't take that long. Takes maybe 7 minutes, if even that. You could do a calf stretch. You could do a foot stretch. You could do the over the arm thing. And if you can't do the thing where you put the arm behind your head like this,
something's wrong.
That's deep. We have deeper problems, but you can get there. You can get there. And this is coming from a person who used to run into the gym, do his 45 and dip. And then wondering the next day, like, damn, why am I so tightly wound? Why do I have such limited range of motion? And it was that. And I started doing hot yoga again because I went a long time ago. Then it was just hot outside, and I didn't want to do hot yoga. But now I'm back at it, and the benefits that I see from it is helping me tremendously. I could do these poses that they would show you on the little diagram thing that. When I first went in there, I couldn't do. Yo, listen, I tell you, I'm the first one leads by example. Even by holding this mic, I can do they call this. I forgot what they call this, but
Chair pose.
Chair pose, yeah, chair pose. You know what I'm saying? Like one leg, I can do it on both legs. You know, I can't put my leg over my head like Russell Simmons, and I don't need to. But I'm here. You know what I mean? And
You didn't back down from a challenge. I was talking shit.
oh nah, man, listen, I don't talk it, I live it, and I've done so many things wrongly in life that it teaches me how to move better because we succeed by failing.
Yes.
And a lot of times, I think sometimes we could be afraid to fail because, we don't like how that feels. But, go out there and do something poorly today so you can learn how to do it better.
Yeah.
And you too can move better. I worked out mad years in the gym, not working out correctly, right. And now I'm moving better. And it's never too late to move better. So good luck to you all on your journey, and I hope that helps you.
So it's so funny that you brought that up. Guys, I did not know that Headkrack was going to talk about stretching in this Move Better segment. But recently I had a conversation with a coach who also used to play football, and he was walking with a cane. Wow. And when I asked him what the cause, like what was going on, what happened, did he fall? He said, I didn't stretch. Wow. Literally. And he said, what he is moving into is because we were actually talking about the podcast, and he was saying he's moving into a space where he is mentoring athletes on the importance of that pre-care and aftercare so that they don't end up like he was. Literally, because he was going into some surgery, whatever, and he basically said all of it could have been prevented had he just stretched before he did the things he did. So I recognize that whether you're a dad, a TV show host, a rapper, a comedian, or you're an athlete, stretching is life. And as a female, like I give this advice all the time on my Beauty Becomes Hers website. I'll say, drink water, moisturize, stretch, and don't mess with fuck niggas.
Okay.
Those are your main criteria for being successful.
I'm trying to figure out what the female version of that is. Like, don't mess with fuck bitches. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to come up with something.
But I also got to point out too, every injured old person was once young and invincible.
Yeah, very true.
Every last one.
I feel like y'all preaching to me because I don't stretch. So I really need to start because I don't stretch.
The universe sent me. The universe sent me. I don't want you walking around in a boot.
Thank you.
I spent many weeks in a boot because I didn't stretch.
Really?
Yeah. Like, man, I'm telling you, I would come in there and work every muscle and then walk out of there like stoic.
Oh,
and then the next thing you know, pain.
But and to your point, at some point we mature. We get more seasoned. And the things that we thought were okay when we were in our 20s are no longer okay. And we realize that we have to adjust to continue to move better. So thank you, Headkrack,
for
bringing us that piece of wisdom for today.
I went through a lot of pain to give that to y'all. Whole lot of pain.
We appreciate the failures that you had to go through to bring us where we are.
Hove did that.
I definitely received it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I used to be an athlete, and I say the same thing. One of the things that separates a lot of people from reaching their peak potential is taking the time to actually stretch. So I agree 100%.
Wow.
So now that we have got our bit of wisdom today on moving better, let's talk about another area in life where we can all move better. And I would love you guys in the audience to help us solve this equation, this conundrum. We're all here because we've established that there is a deficit in our community.
Yes. That
there is with not just young people, because it's not just. So I appreciate the fact that we have a range of ages here, from 18 to, I don't know where we're capping off, so I'm not going to do that.
That's dangerous. That's real dangerous.
It's dangerous. However, I see some people looking backwards, looking over. But anyway, so we're here doing this Way of Kingz podcast because we recognize that as a community, as a culture, we need to elevate the men, which are the cornerstone, the foundation of our culture. Does anyone disagree with that? No? Okay, good. We're here to do that, but there's a reason that we need to do this. There's been circumstances, there's been situations, there's been things that we've experienced that has got us to the point where there is a problem that now needs to be solved. So I would like to know from you guys in the audience what your perspective is in terms of what has caused the problems, the issues, the deficit that we're experiencing in our community, specifically as it relates to men of color. Any ideas? Anyone like to share their 2 cents or
3 cents
or 50 cents? Nobody? Oh, say it again. Oh, hey, we got a mic for you. Let's get the mic out to you so we can hear your perspective. I agree already, though, so please continue.
I half agree.
You half agree?
Half agree.
Okay.
Cool. We good? For sure. All right. Well, yeah, I definitely want to say that I believe it starts with the music that the younger generation is definitely consuming and what's being put out and displayed as in terms of how black men are being portrayed. Like, I want to say for the last, maybe 15, 20 years, rap heavily for sure has gone into like a certain type of direction, and we definitely see a lot of our younger kids portraying that.
That's true.
They're very impressionable, and we try to we dive into these topics sometimes, but some people like to stray away from it, saying it's not really up on the artists to be role models to the younger generations, because that's supposed to be the parents doing or guidance and everything like that. But everything plays a major role. We know a time where music was really good, for real. It's good vibes, good energy, and everyone seemed to be more in cohesion with each other. But we strayed away from that, and I feel like that was, it's deeper than just those who were in power or whatever the case may be. But there's definitely an agenda behind that. So I feel like it definitely starts with entertainment in general.
I support you, and I will definitely say, I want to hear what Headkrack has to say because he half agreed initially, but I will definitely say that you touched on something that we're going to get to shortly about the responsibility and where the responsibility lies, because the point that you made about people are like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what we play, it doesn't matter what we say on in the songs, or it doesn't matter what we're doing in the videos, because it's your job as a parent to offset our bullshit. So we'll come back to that. Headkrack?
Yeah, brother, you touched on a lot of dope points too, and yes, the music is a vehicle that has been weaponized by some of the powers that be to push a narrative. But for every awful song that has a terrible narrative, that could be matched with a song that has. I don't want to self-promote, but I'm out here.
We'll do it for you. Don't worry.
Thank you so much. But there's a song to counter-program every bad song that's out there.
You're right.
The fault falls into the media for pushing the agenda. And I was a person who worked from inside the machine to try to take the little nuts and screws apart and let it fall apart on itself, because I knew it was effed up and I knew what was going on. If you saw the people who was in charge of making making certain musical decisions as it relates to like our demographic and our folks and whatnot, you'd be appalled. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, these people aren't affected by the narratives and the frequencies that they push and promote. But it doesn't just stop with radio. It also stops with these different platforms, the algorithm. And at the end of the day, I mean, yo, listen, I could make 15 songs about going and save the Dolphins.
Word.
It's a very niche group of people that cares about that happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what is it about us as a people? And I'm guilty of this myself. We like moths to the flame. We're drawn to the chaos and the nonsense of so many things.
Yeah.
Yo, man, like I used to wake up in the morning, check Yahoo, and then go to World Star.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because I'm balanced.
I definitely think you made a good point with the music, because we live in an era now where people would say Future is a better man than Russell Wilson. I don't.
Hey, for sure.
I don't know how.
For sure.
I don't know how did it come to that conclusion, but that's what happened. But I do think it's because we don't have the village mentality anymore. See, our music was just as gangster as the music today, but we had a village where you'll get 5 whoopings before you get home. Now you can't say nothing to nobody's child.
Right.
So I think that's a bigger part of the music being a bigger factor.
Right. And it's easier for the kids to hide too, because before, like, I had to be taken to the record store. But then there was a point where I was just saving my lunch money and getting what I wanted. But at any given point, a kid could pull out his phone, listen to whatever you want to listen to, go online, watch whatever they want to watch. I used to have to steal my dad's tape and rewind it and put it back to the part it was when he left. If you know, you know. So, everybody can move so covertly now because of where we're in. It's hard to micromanage our kids in real time.
Right.
And, you could snatch their phones every day, but they'll just have it in a weird folder that you won't look in.
Right.
Brother had a question out there?
Oh, let's get you the mic, Alan.
In my opinion, no is not in the English language no more. It's just coming from a society, we always say yes and it's accepted. Back when I was growing up, no means no. Right. So if your child tell you he don't want to do it, you let him go because you don't want to deal with what's going on with him. So it still can be stopped, but you have to do it, like you said, as a village to do it. But in my opinion, like when I tell my son no, that means no. Right. Either we gonna butt heads or we gonna get down to get down. It's no more than
either way.
And just like I had a situation with him one time before, and I told the officer, you can get him now or you can come back and get him.
Right.
It's your choice. I'd rather get him now where he go in somebody else's house and they get him. So that was the coming to Jesus moment, as they say. Yeah. But, it feels better to know you really made a difference. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Kevin, did you?
Yes, a lot of good points that were made, and I do think that one of the keys is that we do have to operate as more of a community, more of a village, have that mentality if we're going to change the narrative that's dealing with our community and our men. It's not, if it's left up to each individual to just raise their child, that to say that that's a realistic thing without changing the environment or us doing some work to change the environment, to change a lot of the narratives that are pushed in our community as a whole, not just in your home, but right outside of your home, is almost unrealistic. Okay. So we are going to have to approach this as a group. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have the podcast, to not only lend what we have to start changing the narrative, but to have guests such as the brother here that will also lend their perspective.
And you guys. So that we can actually start changing it as a group. To really feel like our problems as a people are going to be changed one household at a time, or, just by my child, me raising my child. That's not really going to make the changes that we need. So that village mentality is real important.
Yeah, I think that's what we're living at now. I think most good men are taking care of their homes, because if they try to cross-reference and try to correct somebody else's child, that leads to something totally different.
Right.
So we got to get back to the village mentality.
Agreed.
So I'm glad that you all are kind of moving us further in the podcast than I intended. So before we dive into what you guys said, which is 100% true, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to add anything, or even our wonderful, amazing, beautiful staff that would like to add any thoughts or ideas to what they believe is causing this deficit that we're dealing with. Anyone have anything they want to say before we move on to steering the conversation towards a solution? Anybody? Okay. So there are a lot of small things that contribute. Music is one of them. Mm-hmm. The mentality, and Antonio and I were talking about this before we went live, the mentality of some people in the community of, this is my child. You can't say anything to them. Or you can't, instead of welcoming that additional mentorship, the adage, it takes a village to raise a child, it didn't say it takes a village to raise a child if they were raised by a single parent. It didn't say it takes a village to raise a child if they've got 1.5, 2 parents, 4 parents. It doesn't matter. This is across the board. It takes a village to raise a child, period, the end. And if we can, as we identify the fact that we are all that village, we are all personally responsible. So I've had a lot of conversations, about this podcast leading up to this. And what I hear the most from people is, the reason that the young men in the community, or not just young, because it's not just young, but the reason men are behaving the way they are is because they were raised by single moms. Now, as a single mom, I'm personally offended. And part of the reason I'm offended is because it is egregious and unfair to blame any single parent. I know we have other single parents in the room who had to raise whether they're men or women, who had to raise their children by themselves. Saying to them, you're the reason our community is fucked up is fucked up. Let's not do that.
I think people always want they want to name their boogeyman. They want to point in a direction and say, this is the reason, this is a problem, and the problem is never me. And sometimes it takes a certain level of maturity to make somebody realize, okay, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the reason that child's messed up because there was nothing. It's always easy to look at someone's situation and just create a narrative.
From the outside,
whether they know what's going on in that world or not. You know what I mean? And I hear that it takes, because I say that a lot too. I was raised by a village, but I think sometimes what a village looks like changes ever so often.
That's true.
Because not everybody comes from a neighborhood where the people that live on the corner or 3 floors up, that's Mr. Johnson and them.
Y'all ain't in by the time the street lights is on. Yeah. Everybody in trouble.
Right, because everybody is so internal.
Yep. Let's get you a mic. Just give us 2 seconds. Let's get you a mic. We want to make sure we get you on recording.
Get you in 4K, 1080p, whatever you probably support. Where I live, I've been living there for 8 years.
Okay.
I know 3 people. Why? Because people don't connect like they used to. People are so scared, or they just want to stay isolated. Now, in separating the homes, if dad leaves and mom has to work all the time, then the kid is kind of left alone, where the phone's raising him, or television, or he's around a bunch of people that are similar mentally. So nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
Exactly.
We have to intervene, period. Now, when it comes to your village, you have to really be selective when it comes to putting your kid or your, with other people. You don't know what they're about. For example, somebody looks great. You send your kid with them. Your kid doesn't make it home because you don't know anything about them. So before you make those choices or place your family in certain hands, you've got to do your homework. You've got to do
due diligence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you for that input.
I used to get frustrated about this as a kid, but big shout out to all the parents that be like, nah, you can't go over their house to meet their parents.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's...
As a parent who now has to meet other parents, I hate it in a different way, but I'm glad that people are doing it because you don't know what people are into in their 4 walls of their crib, and you got to go feel people out. Man, we are the most intuitive people on the planet. You know what I mean? We can walk into a place and tell if something don't feel right. You know what I mean? There's certain people how when you've been shot before, your leg hurt when it's about to rain.
Arthritis.
That's the thing.
Shot before
Arthritis.
Nah, I know people. I've been around people who've been shot before. They're like, oh, shit, it's about to rain. 20% chance. Nah, I'm more like 60. But we could walk into a place and tell if the spirit ain't right in that house. You know what I mean? And I think we do have to also get back to that, too, because sometimes it's not about the things we're not teaching them. It's about the things that they're learning from others and the displays that they see in some of these other environments.
100%. And to the point of the village, this concept that just because you have two parents means that the child is being raised better is not true. I know people who have 4 parents and they're fucked up individuals. So
being present don't make you a good parent. Just because you're present don't make you a good parent.
100%. It's the quality of the parent. And I, as a single mom, have experienced that over time where I'm like, you know, I am grateful in certain aspects where my oldest two children's dad was not in the equation, because I don't need my children having a victim mentality, and that's the mentality their dad had. And I know that that's a probably unpopular opinion, but I'm aware. And as when they're older, and I have done my part, and I know that they understand the way to view life, and they know they can't bring me a problem. They can't come to me and complain. They have to bring me a solution. And at least they have to be like, Mom, I've been working on this, and this is what I came up with, but it isn't working. Now we can talk about it. But I recognize, just like the framework of this podcast is solution-based. We're not just out here pointing out problems. Like you see most of the stuff on the internet. That's one of the things that sets us apart. And I function that way in my own household. So this idea of the village is necessary, whether you have one parent, 2 parents, 4 parents, or other denominations of parents, however that works. The concept of not only making sure that the people that you're putting your children in the care of are the right people, but what we are actually doing now is creating a non-for-profit organization called The Village. And the idea of this is to have business owners, like some that we have in the audience here, or we have on the panel, et cetera, come and share their knowledge, their resources, their wisdom to the children that are a part of the village. But not only that, I want to create an environment that coincides with the Global Collective, our humanitarian organization, where these business owners and the children get to intern in these businesses. And actually because think about it, we send children off to college and we tell them, okay, go, pick a major, pick a minor, and you are supposed to have that shit figured out. And then we look down upon them if they have to change it. They're 17, 18, 19, 20. We don't know who we are till we're 30, at least. So why would we expect children to magically know what they want to do for the rest of their lives? We're creating an environment with the village and the Global Collective where these different business owners provide a safe space for children to come and experience what it would be like to do this as a profession, as a trade.
And you know what? I know this is a new thing you guys are doing. One thing that I know work well, you want to do something with the parents as well. Because if you're growing the kids and the parents not growing, you're on a treadmill.
I'm glad you brought that up. So this is a non-for-profit, so there is no cost for the children to join the village. The tuition is the parents' participation at least once a month.
Good.
Oh.
So
that's real
part of
that's
this...
dope.
Is to make sure that because the parents having to participate not only in learning whatever it is the child is learning and having and benefiting from it as well, and you mentioned it, I think it was the first podcast, about your focus being to be of service. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when you have children as a parent, you automatically move into the mode of being of service. However, we're so busy, right? We have careers, we're running here, we got meetings, we got this, that, and the other, and we're interacting with our children fly by night.
Yeah.
And then there's a certain age where our children stop listening to us too, because they think that we're trying to ruin their life instead of that we're trying to keep them safe or protect them. For those of you
or they think they know everything.
Those who have teenagers and up know exactly what I'm talking about. So even the mentorship or the village from the outside coming in and echoing the same message that you as a parent is saying is really beneficial. But also it puts that parent in a mentality of them actually having to pour into the children intentionally. Because there's a lot of that not happening in the households because we're, again, isolated. We're so busy. And I will say, I don't really know. I have 16 homes in my community, and I don't know any of my neighbors. And I personally prefer it that way, but it's funny. I would make jokes about the fact that I want like a Rockefeller style compound where each of my children have a street named after them, and there's nobody needs to come borrow sugar from me. We can order it on Amazon.
I think that's kind of tied to how you was raised. So if you was raised in inner city like me, you're gonna know a neighbor. Mm-hmm. And if you raised in suburbs, and I'm not saying you were,
I was.
So I mean, it usually go hand in hand.
It goes hand in hand, and that makes sense. But whether it is but even in a neighborhood, if there's children in the neighborhood, everyone should have the mentality of looking out for them, right? That would be the best ideal situation. And if you see a child walk in a neighborhood, you should know whose child that is. And if something's wrong, you see something's going on, you know who to call, whose door to knock on. So I recognize myself that because of my perspective and my philosophy, and maybe even the way I was raised, yeah. I have, and I will say I did have a village kind of mentality, but it really had nothing to do with neighbors. That wasn't where the community, my dad had a not-for-profit. So a lot of my experience with the village came from that environment. But the idea that it is all of us are to blame. Every single person is responsible for the state of our current community. And unfortunately, we take this posture generally, especially black people, that's not my problem. That's somebody else's problem to handle. And the more people who take that posture, nothing gets changed. Nothing is solved.
But I think similar to what you were saying about how, like, you know, you want to be in a closed off place. A lot of times people's worldview is forged by the things that happen to them across their lives. Like something to everybody who takes the stance of it's not my problem, found themselves in a situation where they got involved in, you know what?
In somebody else's business and got burnt.
Yeah, you know, like, well, cool. I'm just keep my nose out of it next time. And you know, and some people have the wherewithal within them to, all right, I'll continue to try to help. And then some people be like, all right, 3 strikes.
What about me and mine?
Yep, I'm out. So I get it. And there's nothing wrong with a person who gets to that point where they don't want to get involved. Sounds like they at least tried at some point or another. And we just got to instill, you know, try to get their faith going up to try again. To not give up on us. To give up on people is so easy to do.
Yes.
It is so hard to fight the good fight, to
really
keep it going, because, you know, it's a thankless job.
It's like leadership. We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
This concept that you could get shot. You could be whole assassinated for taking the stance of being a leader. So it is a risk.
Spirit removed.
What do they call it? Unalived?
I feel like spirit removed. I'm going to start using that on social media and see if it catches on. Oh, man, spirit got removed.
But the idea, all of us, everyone who's here, Antonio included, Margot, the people who have these communities are people who have decided that they're not just going to be hands off. They've decided, I want to be a part of the solution. I see the problem, and I'm not just going to point it out on the internet. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be a part of solving it. And actually, one of the audience members said that in the first podcast. He said, I think a real man becomes the solution. And I believe that to be 100% true. And I know people who are on the other side of what you said, where they never tried. They are and this goes into this idea of maturity and maturing as a man or a woman from childhood. When you're a child, you are poured into. Your parents are of service to you. Your auntie, your grandma, people are doing things for you all of the time. And you might have chores, but your job is not to serve or take care of someone else. And if you never make that transition into maturity, where now you realize, I'm a man, I'm an adult, now it's my job to serve others, just like I was served.
I actually agree totally with what you're saying, but I think it gets to a point for a young man where he should be told to start pouring into others.
Why we're here.
And I think, yep.
Why we're here, 100%.
Yep.
Literally. Because there is no, if there is no like literal class or any kind of mentorship directed towards that, then why would they ever start doing anything different? There is so much of our childhood that carries into our adulthood that unless someone says, nope, now you got to pay bills now you got to pay taxes, now you got to get a job. Your parents are saying that, but are they also teaching you those other like character things?
The biggest thing, accountability, is not being taught.
Agreed.
I think that's the biggest solution. If any home, anything, when you teach an accountability, it changes everything.
And it's so funny because we talked about that last week with Kevin's segment, was because on the list of what the acronym of R.E.A.L Man, right? Responsible and reliable, right? Then it was earnest and trustworthy. Accountable. And we talked about the opposite of that, which is manipulation. But this podcast is accountability. We are calling ourselves and our community up on the carpet and saying we got to do better. And this is how we do better. Not just that we got to do better. Because there's a lot of people out here saying, y'all are fucked up, this is wrong. But not a lot of people saying, this is how we solve it. So I would like to pivot for a moment, stealing this from Headkrack, pivot for a moment to Antonio and talk to you about how your experience in life, getting from where you were to where you are now, and what solutions you have found that has helped you build the character of being a man that you can impart to the audience, the ones who are here and abroad, as well as anything that ties into this concept of responsibility and accountability for this village mindset.
Wow. I think I was the perfect example for someone to turn out wrong. Okay. I grew up in the inner city. I grew up in Carver Home Projects. It's the largest project here in Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
Single mom. One thing my mom did do, she put me with role models. So I found a love for football and basketball. So through football and basketball, I found role models. So I got to see men that looked like me, that was married and had families. So I come from a family, a lot of males, and I was the first male to get married. I got uncles way older than me, but I was the first male to get married. And I tie that to a lot of my football coaches and basketball coaches. I saw them doing it. So
you had an example.
I had an example. And I think I really appreciate my mom for that, because she never stopped nobody from disciplining me. She never stopped nobody from telling me something that was wrong. And looking back on that, that was her helping me with accountability. So
let's give a round of applause for Antonio's single mom parent who saw what needed to be done, put her son in a situation to get what he needed.
And through all other missteps, she held me accountable. And I think that's the biggest thing that don't happen now, and that's what we gotta nail in on, accountability. So that's my story. I think I'm the perfect recipe that should have been a disaster. Got a lot of family members that was a disaster. But as I look back and reflect, having those football coaches and basketball coaches, they changed the narrative for me, because I had to be respectful, and they gave me purpose. And I think we have a lot of young men that walk around not doing nothing.
With no purpose.
I always had something to do. Whether it's sports, I always had something to do. So now we sit around with an idle mind. So all of my boys, we raised 4 boys, 1 girl. Everybody have something to do. You just don't get to sit around.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
Well, thank you, Antonio.
Big up. And it's so dope how it looks different for everybody. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Right. Because like there's some people who will have terrible examples of what to do, and they learn from those terrible examples. And some people see terrible examples and be like, I'm going to do the exact opposite of that.
Yeah,
and I more so fall in the I did.
My bonus parent did that.
See, going back to saying I had a village, but I grew up in a very disruptive home.
Yeah.
My home was very disruptive. And the chaos of my family dwelling was normal to me.
You thought that was okay?
Well, no, I knew it wasn't okay. But
it was normal.
Let's imagine if you live in a country that gets bombed every day.
Got it.
You know what I mean? But it's Tuesday, and they usually bomb around 4. That sort of thing. And you just know how to deal with and cope in the environment. And you just know it's wrong, and it's not necessarily the ideal situation that you want to create when you have kids. And you learn from that and just go the opposite direction of all that. And that's kind of what my thing was. But, I wanted to play sports, but the sports that I liked weren't popular. So there wasn't a dodgeball team. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't a tetherball tournament that I could enter, so I had to find.
You turned out okay.
I think I did okay. My brother had a question in order.
You were saying something about Carver Home?
Yes, sir.
I'm East Lake Meadows.
Okay, I went to school at Crim High School, so I went to school with a lot of people from East Lake.
Gotcha. Okay, what side of town you stay on?
Now?
Yeah.
Oh, Southside Jonesboro.
Southside, where you stay at?
I live in McDonough now.
McDonough where?
Marietta.
Not Atlanta.
Huh?
Like, I don't want anybody finding it.
Okay, well, everybody got good points, but how do everybody bring he in one side of town, she on one side of town, I'm on the other side of town?
I got that.
What can y'all do to put everything together where everybody's together?
That's my job.
Okay. I'm going to leave that with y'all because I got a trainee. I got to train it.
And which I appreciate. So he's literally being, I'm going to point this out. Will you tell us the name of your trucking company while you got the mic real quick?
Say what now?
Will you tell us the name of your trucking company?
Donaldson Logistics.
Donaldson Logistics?
Yeah.
So Mr. Donaldson Allen is literally being an example for the village. He is mentoring a young man, getting him out of the streets, selling drugs, to teach him how to drive trucks for his trucking company.
That's the village.
That is the village. That is the village. And it doesn't really matter what side of town. We all live in Atlanta. We come from...
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. Everybody needs to come together and say, hey, what we going to do? We got the radio, man. We're going to have a party or something.
Yeah, Headkrack putting the mic back together.
we got the radio, man, so he can advertise something that all the parents can get together. And we don't even know what kids we got. We got parents, but... we don't know.
We all have children. We all have children. And Alan, that is what I was telling you that we are going to have for those of you all who have come out tonight and decided, yes, I want to be a part of the village. We're going to have a sit down where we work out the logistics of how to do exactly what you're talking about.
I'm in.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Alan.
Yeah, I'm in.
And we appreciate you starting this even without knowing we were doing it, which makes you a perfect fit for this idea. So thank you, and we will definitely continue that conversation. Go ahead.
I just want to make a point on one of the things that Antonio said about his mentors when he was young. In our first podcast, we spoke about some of the things that would cause you to be recognized as a real man, and one of those things was being committed to whatever it is that you do. And I thought it was a great example that you gave that the coaches were employed or they were there to really teach you football and basketball, not anything else. Mm-hmm. But because they took what they were doing seriously, they took it further than just being a coach. They took their responsibility serious.
They was father-like.
They were father-like. They wanted to guide you in the right direction. It was other than the X's and O's of just football and basketball. And I think that example is important because no matter what it is you lend to the collective, to the group, to the village, as long as you take it serious, you are putting yourself in a position of being that same mentor, that same guide. And with that type of commitment, all of us have something that we can lend. And as long as we take it serious, we can have the same effect on others that they had on you. So I thought that was a real good example about your coach.
I agree.
And to your point, and not to exclude you, but you guys can relate to this. A man just showing up always be enough. Just example-wise. Yeah. When every man that you think about that inspired you, he didn't say much. You can probably just see what he was doing, watch his action. A lot of my coaches, they weren't big on words, but I saw it. I saw their hard work. I saw the way they cared for their wives. I saw how they put structure in their home because I got to go spend the night at their home. So just their action and the way they showed up meant the world to me.
Yeah, I think a little effort creates a long narrative.
It does.
Right. You know, because even when you think about things that you loved when you were little, right? Like in my head,
everlasting.
Yeah, like Transformers came on for 19 years, but no, it ran for 4 seasons. And when you think about human interaction, right, and just somebody coming up and just like, yo, that one time, blah blah blah, picked me up, took me fishing.
Right. Which Alan wants to do. He wants to mentor over fishing.
See, and that's so dope because so many people don't have those base level skills because we're such a digital society. If I saw my grandfather on my mother's side, if I saw him 20 times while he was alive, 3 of those times he took me fishing, and that's the memory. That's the memory I have of him.
And that was the point.
Yeah.
That's what, man. We have to be present and be an example.
So to your point, it's funny because what I was going to comment on, Kevin commented on, and then Headkrack did, is I had a conversation with somebody recently about the podcast, and when I said, hey, you know, Headkrack is my co-host, and Kevin, well, you're a woman. What could you possibly tell me about being a man, being a real man? So I said, I'm glad you asked that question. What a lot of people don't realize is the fact that women are the ones who are receiving on the other side of the manhood, right? You're not hopefully, you're not going home and sleep. Well, I'm not gonna say hopefully. You're
I know you ain't talking to me.
In most cases.
All cases. For me.
For him, okay. Antonio's like, for sure. When you're interacting with other men, it's chopping it up here, you're hanging out with your friends, maybe you're somebody you work with, maybe you have a mentor. But in reality, the people who receive what you do or don't do is us, the women. So we are the ones that are very clear and able to articulate to you what a man is or what a real man is and what it isn't. What we can't do is be an example. We cannot show you what a real man looks like. Mm-hmm. We cannot be that example. And that is one of the biggest gaps that this village is going to accomplish is even if we sat in the podcast and pointed it out, and Kevin, he does a great job of breaking it down, at some point there needs to be actual physical examples of what this looks like. And I think that aspect of the mentorship within inside the village is going to be vital to us actually changing things. Because there's one thing to point it out, and it's one thing for people to understand things theoretically. It's a completely different thing for you to actually be presented with a circumstance where your character is tested and tried, and then someone holds you accountable. And then you see someone in the exact same situation be the example of how you're supposed to behave when you're pulled over by the police, how you are supposed to make sure you don't get shot. Mm-hmm. Or how you're supposed to make sure that when you're my 18-year-old son, who now he's a man, but he's got to realize that I'm still his mother, right? So he doesn't get to look at me like a nagging woman. He needs to see a man interact with me that way. He needs to see a man interact with Margot that way, with any other woman that way, where it goes, you know what, you're right. Let me take responsibility and accountability for whatever it was and respond appropriately.
I think mom and dad both equally have responsibility to men, and I think both are dropping the ball. I think both. It takes two to make a kid, but for some reason we think one or the other can raise the kid.
Yeah.
When we don't work out, now we pick who raised the kid. And I think that's a lot of it as well. It takes moms and dad.
And I think there's a lot to do with the pressure cooker that I think a lot of relationships get put in, because we have to spin so many wheels.
Yeah. Too many plates.
Yeah, to get, the same results that our parents got and our parents before that got. I think this economy that we're in right now is atrocious.
We're competing with every child got a cell phone now. They got access to all the things.
Listen, I have learned more in the last 6 months on YouTube than I did in any university.
And you will.
Because education and getting knowledge comes in so many different forms. Even people that stumble across this podcast or any other transformative piece of content that you could find out there. But because you want things that's going to pour into you, not take away from. But there has to be some sort of gel between the mom and dad unit within the house to where they're working a little bit more better in synergy. And this goes for in my house too, because I have to show up a certain amount of times just so my kids remember that I'm their dad. Right. You know what I mean? Because mom has to do so much sometimes. Yeah. And as, the paternal figures, sometimes for some of us, it looks like you work a lot more. You spend more time outside.
We have to learn how to respect what each other bring to the table.
100%.
And we just don't.
Symbiotic.
We don't. We don't respect what the other person brings to the table, and that just makes it hard, because mom may be a little bit more softer than dad. Dad may be a little bit more harder, but they both are needed. Absolutely. There's no need for us to criticize each other. It's both needed. You need to hug on him. I may need to kick him up the butt.
So
good cop, bad cop.
To your point, good. That's a perfect example. But that idea, and I do this in a co-parenting situation where I'm like, I'm about to pull your child in on this 3-way call, and I expect you to back me up on X, Y, Z, so on and so forth. Then he get on the phone, baby. What you got?
Definitely if that's his daughter, because you do the same thing and that was your son. You have different responsibilities to them kids.
Every man I know that has a daughter says that their daughter has them wrapped around their finger in a way that the son never could. And every woman I know that has one son, they damn near go together.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I agree with that. And I was really joking when I said that. But the point is that I recognize that part of what allows that respect to be there is just when you understand, when the respect is there for the individuals, period, like when you respect your wife truly, not because you have to, because you're on TV and this is, not because you need to do this in front of the children, but when you genuinely view each other as valuable pieces, like halves to one whole that creates this unit, then it makes it so much easier. But also, and this goes into something Margot and Antonio and I were talking about, is having these covenants in our relationships where we have agreements of how we're going to handle things and we hold each other accountable to it. So
they're going to word accountability again.
Accountability. So if I'm supposed to, if when we've already discussed that when X, Y, and Z child does ABC, I'm supposed to do this and you're supposed to do this. If I drop the ball,
I do E.
You're like, babe, you were supposed to do ABC. That's written in our covenant. And then now is your time to step up and be like, you know what? I didn't handle it. Let me go take care of that now. Now, I don't want to, we're having a really good time having this conversation, but I want to make sure that we get Rich with Us segment.
Hell yeah.
Because I know it connects to this concept. So last week we talked about accountability and the opposite of that, manipulation. Today I think Kevin is going to talk about responsibility in the real man framework.
Can I say something? You killed that accountability and manipulation.
Like literally.
Yeah,
literally.
for real.
High five up here. High five.
He killed that. You killed that.
He did. I got a bunch of feedback.
I'm waiting on accountability right now.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother.
The way that the podcast is set up, we're going to have episodes similar to this, and then we'll have Under the Table podcast. Under the Table, we'll go a little bit deeper into it, and however, it won't be with the audience. So we'll get a little more time to break it down. Now, responsibility, what we're going to speak about today, can come in a number of different ways, a number of different forms. And what we try to do in the Get Rich With Us segment is not only give an example that everyone can relate to, but something that we can practice so that we can actually get better in whatever category we're talking about. And in this one is responsibility. All right?
All right.
So everybody pay attention, because we're going to assign some homework, everybody, to try this out and see how well we can do this.
Let me get my notes together, brother.
Did you want your notes since you left your iPad?
No.
Okay, you're good.
No, I'm good. So one of the parts of the acronym, one of the attributes that we attribute to being a real man is responsibility. And responsibility, again, it can come in different forms. However, the way that we're going to speak about it today is about apologizing. Now, this is something that is actually an art form. It's actually more difficult than most people recognize it to be, or it can be more simple as long as we have the blueprint to cause us to be successful in it. Saying I'm sorry is not an apology. Saying I apologize is not an apology. If you go to a store, this is in relationships. If you're in a relationship and you make some type of mistake and you say to your partner, I'm sorry, and that's it, a lot of times that's not sufficient. I apologize, not sufficient. But we can relate that to business as well. If you go to a store, you buy a product and it does absolutely nothing that it was supposed to, you take it back and they say, oh, I'm sorry. You're waiting for the rest. You want more than just I'm sorry. The I'm sorry doesn't cut it. It doesn't do it justice. So what we're going to speak about is how it's actually supposed to take place so that we can apologize properly and hopefully move on from that point. Everybody with me?
With you.
So we're going to practice this. All right, the first thing is, with an apology, is acknowledgement. Now, a lot of us mess up on this because before we can really acknowledge what's even being brought to our attention, we start defending it.
Yeah.
We start making an excuse. Well, this is what happened. I didn't try to do this. That's not the point. When someone brings something to our attention and the way that it affected them and so on and so forth, if we can do this without canceling it out, our first thing is acknowledgement. If you say something to the nature of, oh, it's really not that big of a deal, I'm not sure why you're taking it that way, now you've canceled out the fact that you're apologizing. You're saying that, honestly, you really shouldn't have anything to apologize for. All right? So what we're going to do is, at first, we're going to acknowledge, and we're going to try to acknowledge without canceling it out, without making any excuse for it. It's not as important as what you intended to do. What is important is what came across and how it affected the person that you're supposed to be apologizing to. Right?
Right.
All right, so we don't want to cancel it out. The first thing we're going to do is acknowledge. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to speak to the problem in past, present, and future tense. And most people don't do this when we go into an apology. But this is important to make sure that the person understands that not only do you understand what you're apologizing for, but you're going to do something about it.
And it won't happen again.
When we speak to this idea in the past, it's saying, hey, I understand that what I did caused you to feel insecure, caused you to feel hurt, caused you to feel insulted, whatever. You're acknowledging what happened already. That's past. You're saying in the present that I understand how that could come across or how it has come across and it caused you to feel this way. That's present tense. I got it. I understand the idea. I understand what you're bringing to me. Then the future tense. You're saying this is what I'm going to do from this point forward to make sure that we don't have the same issue. Mm-hmm. So if you can acknowledge the issue, speak about it in past tense, what you understand from the past situation, present tense, what you understand how that can affect people, your understanding of the actual issue, and then future tense, what you're going to do about it and what you'll do next time. You should have a full apology. The person understands that you got the point, and now you're ready to move forward. A lot of times people feel like, hey, I said I'm sorry. Why are we still talking about it? Yeah. I said I apologize, but she just keeps nagging. It's because we didn't do a thorough or a correct or proper apology. So we're going to actually practice that. We're not going to cancel out the apology by making an excuse. We're going to acknowledge, and we're going to speak on it past, present, and future tense. That will cause us to now, the person that you're speaking to, they don't just think you're saying something to end the conversation.
Right.
You're not trying to rush through it. They're not nagging you by bringing it up. But what you are saying is, listen, I get it. I understand. And because I understand not only what the problem is, I understand how it affected you. And this is what I'm going to do because I'm serious about it. Now, if the business that you were at, again, we want to relate this not just in personal relationships, but business. If they acknowledge what your issue is, they say that, hey, look, I'm very sorry you had to experience that. This is what we're going to do about it. And they're either going to give you a refund or a replacement or something of that nature. You'll be satisfied. And you'll walk out of there feeling like, okay, well, they took care of me. They did me right. That's the same way it should be in a personal relationship.
Agreed.
It's the same way it should be in a business relationship, same way it's with family, so on and so forth. Your family members don't want to deal with you anymore if it's always a problem, and when they bring it to you, you just dismiss them. You say, oh, my bad, and just keep walking. Now, don't get me wrong, if you just step on somebody's shoes and you can say it could be
my bad,
it could be something sorry, and you keep it moving. But a lot of our interactions that are more in-depth than that, it's important that we not only listen to the person that's bringing it to us, but properly acknowledge and respond to it. And we can do that by our 4 steps: acknowledgement, past, present, and future tense. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
So that's something that we can try. The next time that someone brings something to our attention, again, forget about what you tried to do or what you meant to happen. Let's just deal with the person that's bringing it to us. We're taking responsibility for something that we caused, whether that be intentionally or not. Now we're being responsible for our own action that has already passed. And we're going to do something about it. That is a person that will be recognized as a responsible person. They're not trying to duck and dodge. They're not trying to shift the blame. They're not making excuses for it. They can accept their responsibility for what their actions were and what we're going to do about it and move forward.
Like it.
All right?
Yep.
Appreciate that, Kevin.
There's just to wrap up the responsibility thing. Kevin and I talked about some 4 major areas of responsibility that fit into the category of being that are required in order for you to be considered a real man. Number 1 is personal responsibility. Okay, now personal responsibility is deals with you. For example, one of the things that I've seen on the internet a lot is this concept of men leading women in relationships. And then I've heard some men come back and say, you couldn't lead yourself out of a cardboard box. Like, why are you trying to lead somebody else? And that concept is very true, though. Having a purpose, having direction, and having being personally responsible as an individual for your actions, for your choices, etc., is the first area of responsibility that will qualify you to be a real man. Number 2 is taking responsibility, like we talked about with Kevin's segment. But another aspect to that is even what we talked about with the village, this idea that I am in an environment that is not going right, or something in my purview is not happening how it should. I am a leader. I am responsible. So I am going to do something about it. I'm not going to be like, not my issue. I hope Antonio gets that. You know, right. Headkrack, I'm sure he got that shit handled. Good. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take personal responsibility and of anything that's in my purview and make sure that it is going well, that things are happening as they're supposed to, etc. Which can happen in your job, at work, can happen in your home. It can happen in any area of life where you identify that something needs to be fixed and you take that step and take responsibility for it. Yeah. Number 3 is the responsibility to communicate, which, would you talk about that? Because that was one that we didn't go any further depth into. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, but.
Absolutely. It is, but it isn't. And the reason I say that is no matter what type of man you deem yourself to be, communication is absolutely positively necessary. Now, there's not everybody that does a lot of talking, similar to the coaches that you were speaking about.
Yes.
They don't have to do a lot of talking and breaking everything down and getting all into it. Everybody doesn't do that. That's not everybody's forte. But communication is absolutely necessary. It's important.
Effective communication.
Communication, yes.
It's important. Yes, it is. It's very important to say what you're going to do before you do it. It's very important so that people understand your intention or people understand the angle that you're coming from. It's important to acknowledge people when they do something positive. It's important to say, hey, look, that could have been better. Communication is important. And if we're going to consider ourselves real men and or be effective in any situation, communication is important. It's necessary. If we look at it again from the business standpoint, you cannot run a business with either the customers or the people that work with you without being a communicator. Very and again, I recognize that that's not everyone's strong suit, but it's an absolutely mandatory category that everyone, whether you like it or not, you have to do it. You have to communicate. And if you a person that's short on words, great. Get your point across. Go on about your business. But
short communication, not bad communication.
Short communication. That's right. But it has to be the communication. The idea that people will just be on the same page and or that you can move forward without the communication is really a fantasy world. That's not the case. And for all of us that are in relationships, we understand that. Yeah. It's great to feel like everything is good. However, that's a lot of the times where you'll find out later that there were some problems brewing. Communication is absolutely necessary if you're going to be considered a real man or if you want to make any real progress in life, in a relationship, in business, with your family, anything of that. Communication is absolutely necessary.
I just saw a video with you guys on a podcast where you all were literally saying a variation of the same thing of what's necessary to have a successful relationship is that you have to be willing to have the hard conversations. It doesn't matter if it's going to feel good to have this conversation or if you want to have it or not. Communication is necessary because you won't have a pulse on what's really going on if you don't communicate.
Show me a good relationship, I'll show you good communication. Show me a terrible relationship, I show you poor communication.
Amen. Amen.
Go hand in hand.
100%. Oh, go ahead, Cash. Please.
So what you were saying, Kevin, about communication, sweeping stuff under the rug and avoiding those conversations breeds resentment.
Yes.
That's how you end up with something really small blowing out of proportion or something further down the line end up being a bigger deal because those conversations, that communication, it got to be done in real time. Also, because when you try to bring stuff up later, it doesn't have the same power and presence because you're forcing me to try to go back and remember a conversation and verbatim. You got to have the wherewithal to be able to address stuff in real time because when you move past the moment, you have to be able to move past that moment in order to grow.
And as women, I can tell you, we're not going to forget. As a matter of fact, we're going to stew on that shit. And then we're going to be madder than we were when the first thing happened.
And to his point in full transparency, I had to really learn tough conversations from my wife. Every time, like, let's talk, like, oh, man, what I did?
That's what you said.
Yeah. But now, I you want to talk? Let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And let's talk about it.
And another point that Cash pointed out is that there is no such thing as big things.
Right.
It's all just an accumulation of small things.
That just got out of hand.
No such thing as big things.
True.
It's just an accumulation of small things. And if we look at that as physical things or ideas or no matter what it is, the more small things that come together, they make something big. So if you can catch it and or address it or speak about it while it's small, you never get to the point where it's something really big. Yeah. If you miss it, you can guarantee that
it's like a pile of socks. If there's just a couple pairs of socks on the floor, it's cool. But if you add 20 pairs of socks, and it's like somebody got to sort this. You know what I mean? Like, so sort it when it's just one pair. It's easier, way easier, man.
So, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we're doing this live, so you all can participate.
Since Donahue passed me to me.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I was listening in. I didn't hear the whole conversation and everything else, but I heard certain parts. So I just want to say with apologies, an apology is to change behavior. Don't just buy me something. Don't just pacify, I understand, and that's that. And that's on both sides. I'm a nurturer by heart. I'm tired of people assuming, oh, you the strong black woman, you got to be strong, or you're supposed to be this and you're supposed to be that. I'm a nurturer by heart. So it's like certain things for me, when I hear certain things with people and they say certain things about how apologies should go and this person needs to cater to this person or you need to dumb yourself down in a relationship and everything else. And I'm like, the way I am in a relationship, it's two people communicating.
Correct.
It's both of us in a partnership.
Yes.
It's me listening and being able to apologize too. If I've done something wrong, it's not me saying, all right, baby, you're right, because I don't want nobody to do that to me.
Right.
So it's a partnership. It's not us saying, okay, all right, we just going, okay, well, what can I do to make this person feel a little bit better because I don't agree with what they talking about, or that part too. When you deal with a relationship, it's the communication, it's the partnership, understanding the things that the things that made you fall in love will keep you in love.
Yeah. So
the parts that when you change into a different person at times, you're asking that person to love somebody else than who you presented yourself to be.
True.
So understand that part when you're dealing in a relationship, and also come to that person and step back sometimes and listen to what that person has to say to you, because it's like, okay, put yourself in that person's position. Sometimes when they're saying, okay, this is how I feel about a situation, take yourself out of it and be like, oh, you don't have a valid point, but just listen and say, you know what? If I was in that situation and if somebody said that part to me, how would I feel?
Be understanding and compassionate.
Yes, of course, that part.
Yep.
So it's like that on both sides for both male and female. It's understanding, it's communicating, and it's working as a team, and not just what I want, and not just that person apologizing and agreeing and compromising all the time. Because when you get one person that's always compromising, you're going to get a failed relationship every single
100%.
time.
Thank you so much for your comment. To recap the responsibility thing that we've been talking about as a part of Real Men, number one is personal responsibility. A homework assignment was given in the pilot episode to decide what kind of man and woman you want to be, and then hold yourself accountable to that. That is personal responsibility. Taking responsibility for leading yourself in that direction. Taking responsibility for holding yourself accountable. And as Kevin actually pointed this out when we were talking about this pre-episode, is that let's just say you want to drink less. You can take responsibility for that by telling the bartender, hey, Kennedy, don't give me more than X amount of mimosas tonight. You know, as an example, tell your partner, tell the friends you're hanging out with, so that, because once you tell someone, then now you can't just hide behind, you're the only one who knows you're supposed to be making this change, and there's no one to hold you accountable.
And that's that village you're talking about.
That's the village. And it's not just with children. The village is us, all of us together here in this community. Let's see. So now, step 2 was taking responsibility. One of which was apologizing, like the lady just pointed out, and what Kevin talked about, going through the past, present, and future versions of an apology, as well as taking responsibility for your environment, the things that are going around, and making sure that things are going well, that people are being treated correctly in your presence is a big one that a lot of people, miss. Number 3 was the responsibility to communicate. You are not a man if you're just doing shit. You're not a real man if you're just doing shit and you're leaving your wife, your children, your significant other to just be like, all right, so where you at? What you doing? What's the move? Like, no one should be in that situation, man or woman. Then number 4 is the responsibility to serve, which is what we were talking about a minute. Like in the first episode, Headkrack said, when we asked about being a high value man, are you a high value man? He said, my focus is to be of service. And I am valuable to the people who
need my services. So this idea of what you said, even of that transition between, immaturity to maturity, and learning that service is your responsibility as a real man. Service is your responsibility. And then just thinking about what we're doing here in this space. We're all coming together. We're sharing different ideas, perspectives, etc., for the purpose of solving this problem that we have. Every person in this room now is responsible to pass this information along. In order for you to be L in R.E.A.L, which is a leader, you now cannot just sit on the information. And a lot of times people think about, it's actually funny, Kevin and I were talking about the concept of his segment of Getting Rich With Us, and we talked about rich and poor character last week. It is, if you are a rich person, you understand that your abundance needs to be circulated. You need to invest it. You give to charitable organizations. You don't just hoard it and keep it to yourself. That is the mentality of poor character, of poor people. So hold on to stuff to dear life, not circulate money, not invest. So as we are getting rich together, we need to invest in other people. We need to mentor, to share, to be charitable with the information that we've learned, because that is now our responsibility as leaders and as real men and women. So, and that ties directly into the village mentality. Like, full circle.
We are each responsible for being mentors in our community, and it doesn't just mean children. Right? So that's what we are all here to do in the Way of Kingz podcast. So there, a lot of this, the deep dive, as Kevin mentioned, will happen in our episodes that are called Under the Table. So stay tuned for those. Those are not episodes that we're doing live. But I'm so happy that you all came out and participated and shared your perspectives. This is a conversation we have to have. This is absolutely necessary in order for us to grow as a community. Headkrack, did you want to?
It's also, kind of like, when you have a car and the check engine light comes on, sometimes you have to kind of recalibrate yourself and, and check in, because sometimes the needs of the people change. Sometimes even the needs of yourself change. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to put yourself in your own village and create time for yourself so you could be the best version of yourself, so you can be whatever version you got to be for the rest of the world. So, as you make time for others, make time for yourself, and that cyclical action will help you do more for the world, I feel.
Absolutely. Like stretch.
Like stretch. Yeah.
I'm sure you learned something now. I'm going to start stretching for real.
The easiest one is this one right here. Where you go, then when you get to the other stuff, it all helps, man.
You don't stretch, and you can't move better and help other people move better, because you'll be all...
Yeah, all tightly bound, man. Yeah.
Moving.
So big shout out to everybody in the social media space who maybe just stumbled across this, by happenstance. Be sure you follow the Way of Kingz podcast, not just on the podcast apps, but as well as YouTube, SoundCloud. Are we on? We're not on SoundCloud. I'm used to the music spill. YouTube and all the podcast apps, and just tap in. We appreciate your time and energy, and shout out to anybody who this found when they were at a time that they needed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Antonio, is there anything you want to promote, plug, anything before you roll out?
Oh yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for pulling up, bro.
This is dope, and this is a conversation that we do need to have. Thank y'all so much for having me. If you guys are looking for a date night, Galentine, whatever you guys do with girls' night, whatever you guys need. Galentine's. We're throwing an amazing prom next Saturday, the 15th, right here in Hateville, at the legendary Ford. We're doing an adult prom. It's a cause for Grady. We're working with their Heart Center. We'll donate money back to Grady. Portia is going to be our MC. It's going to be a nice, huge, big event. We would love for you guys to come out.
I got my dress.
It's going to be super dope.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Sometimes we don't get to toot each other's horns enough. No Diddy.
I agree.
You know what I mean? But like, yo, like in
like microdose.
Yeah, I got a project out. It's called Microdose. Get it wherever you're stealing your music from, iTunes,
but this
Spotify.
This is in response to the music conversation we had earlier, and how just because there is a bunch of not so positive music out there, there is.
It's righteous and ratchet at the same time. It's the perfect balance.
I like it.
Because nobody wants to be preached to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally have a song called Violence, which hooks you in with the title, but it's about violence of like killing off the things that are preventing you from being great, and sometimes it's you. Like the hook. Yeah, like the hook is like, you know, the problem is him. You know, like.
No, go ahead and give us the
There's
hook,
a
man.
much abbreviated version. I've been Spotify, Violence, Headkrack. Microdose is the project. Tap in with that, and hopefully it raises your vibration and gives you something to work out and stretch to, right?
Headkrack has been generous enough to allow us to use his one of his songs as our intro and outro music for the podcast. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll hear some of his music there as well.
Yeah, we outside with it.
We outside. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you to the staff of the Real Milk and Honey. We appreciate you all coming out every Tuesday night. We know that you all close at 4 and you open back up for us, and we are very, very grateful for feeding us, taking amazing care of us. Kennedy came up with some amazing drink specials and mocktails for us tonight.
Oh, word.
Unique and Tiana are always pointing, hey, do this, drink this, try this. It's always amazing. Thank you, DJ Supreme
with the
pops. It was a completely different vibe walking in today with DJ Supreme on the ones and twos, and hopefully we'll see him out here for our after parties as well as future weeks. We appreciate everyone, including Chef Jason, who is not making an appearance right this moment, for donating their time and energy to this cause.
Indeed.
This is something no one here is here because they're being paid lots of money to come. Everyone here is here because they understand that this is necessary and they want to be a part of this movement. So thank you all, and we all see you all next time for the episode 4 of The Way Of Kingz.
Achieving stealth, Van Allen belt level, deadly, steady, ready, aim. Steps more like Big Daddy than Eddie Kane. I say gang, and just my slang, bang the rest. Headshots, put bodies and plots, fuck your vest. Success ain't changed me, just made me angry. Weak shit behind the curtain, see the devil lurking. But I recover, Donnie McClurkin. I'm heaven's hitman, I honorably murk 'em. First come, first serve, nerves of barbed wire. Work ethic turns the bias to hard bias. Connections stable, I'm hardwired. This is pure energy, I'ma let y'all try it.